Well, I grew up very poor in very dangerous neighborhoods, and and I had a very violent parent at one time. So we didn't really have a safe space inside the house or outside the house. And I found a lot of solace in my grandmother. I was very, very close to her. Unfortunately, she was an alcoholic, and she ended up drinking herself to death. And that was on my birthday when I was 13 years old. And I think that was one of the hardest things that I've ever had to deal with, losing someone that I was so close to over something so silly as alcoholism. And I know that it's a disease, but it was just, at 13, I didn't understand it. So it's taken me a long time to forgive her for that, even though I know it's not her fault. But losing her was really, really tough on me. And it shaped, I think, a lot of my behavior later in life, just as being a knucklehead in the streets and getting in trouble and all that. So that was one of the probably the darkest moments of my childhood. Recently, I lost one of my dearest friends in the world. He was my hero, actually. His name is Harlan Ellison, one of the greatest writers of the 20th and the 21st century, maybe of all time. I didn't even get to say goodbye to him. He died in his sleep. And that was really, really hard for me. And all I wanted to do was to curl up in a ball and cry and not face the world at all. I knew Chester from touring with him on Ozfest, and he was always so nice. I mean, we were just a baby band at that time, and they were really, exploding during those days. And he would always come to our bus and say really nice things to us, because I was the only woman to play Ozfest. I was the first woman to play Ozfest, and I think he understood that how tough that was on me, because they had their own critics at Ozfest as well. So I think that he was one of the kindest souls I'd ever met, and it was really, really hard to know that he'd taken his own life. I try to counterbalance that with reminding people that they're stronger than they think they are, and that life is like a book. Every day's a page, and you just keep writing, and you just keep writing and writing and writing. Music was an accident for me. I thought I was going to be a writer or some other sort of, I don't know, ne'er-do-well, knucklehead, running the streets of Los Angeles doing bad things. But I was always brought back to writing. I was always brought back to poetry, and there was just something about it that made me feel whole. And so I started doing spoken word performances, and then I really wanted to have something more electric with me, and not just meaning like electric instruments, but just something more spiritual and sharing those moments with those performances and with other people who understood what the poems meant and how bad depression is, and so I found some musicians, started a band, and we got signed after 4 shows and no demo, and our 8th show as a band was Ozfest. And there was a moment then that occurred on stage that sort of connected all the dots and everything for me, that this is what I was supposed to do with my life, and that if I could use my podium, use my medium to help anybody that had ever felt as hopeless and as helpless as I did, then I would do that. And I've committed my career to doing that. One of the best moments of being in this band and being and writing the songs I write is having people come to me and tell me that my music saved their life. And what I always reply to them is that, no, you did. The music was just, it was just a catapult. That's all it was. It was the fuel inside you that you needed. and we just struck a match, and the rest of it was all you. Depression is nothing to be ashamed of. Anxiety is nothing to be ashamed of. Mental illness is nothing to be ashamed of. It's not your fault. It's how you were born. It's how you're wired. And to dismiss all the stigmas that come with it, because it's everyone suffers from depression, from all walks of life, from all economic backgrounds, from all races, religions, creeds, whatever. People suffer from depression, and I would just like to remind everybody that, you know, it is just a day. It's one day, and don't let depression rob you of your identity. You know, because your mental illness will lie to you, and it will tell you that you're worthless. It will tell you that you're helpless. But if you find your tribe, if you find your people, things will change. You still will always suffer from depression. I suffer from it, and so I try to write as much as I can when I feel depressed, even though sometimes I don't even want to get out of bed, you know. But it's important to remember that it's just a day, and maybe it's going to be 2 days, maybe it'll be 3 days, but you'll survive it because you're strong enough to survive it. And just keep fighting and stay with us and making this world beautifully colorful as it is, instead of removing your beautiful hue from this world and making it so monochrome. Sometimes you just need to write in a journal. Sometimes you just need someone to listen. And if you have that special somebody in your life, then you're very, very lucky. If you don't, then write and create and paint and draw. You know, do try to turn your pain into something creative. And I think that's one of the best ways that I found that led me on my path out of those dark times. You matter, you're needed, and you rock.